religions and theories. Theologians will try to scrutinize beyond where they have scrutinized. Philosophers will launch new ideas in the world. Men of science will proclaim their knowledge as the only truth. Fanatics of religions will rise up in groups to throw themselves against each other. 55. That will be the time for which you must be prepared, because your voice will be the only one that is heard serene and aware. 56. Do you see how much I claim? Do you see how small you are and how many options you still have? Well, you will serve me, and your offering will be pleasant and fragrant before my divinity. 57. The tabernacle, the ark, and the law are in your heart. 57. The tabernacle, the ark, and the law are in your heart. To you, for being humble, I will reveal what the wise men have not yet come to understand. 58. People, at this time you return like the prodigal son to the house of the Father.
We're trying to get Facebook straight, y'all.
So, and I have told you,
hold
you
on.
Are the firstborn.
We're doing something new. Give me about a minute or two. 2 minutes.
I was left alone, and in my loneliness I cried. Now you have returned, and I say to you, sit at the table. There are the loaves, the fruits, and the wine. You then have wept for your ingratitude and disobedience, recognizing that you have been the pariah among other peoples who did not receive what you did. You have begged that your gifts be returned to you, and your wealth has been returned to you. 59. I have made you recognize that in the disunity of humanity you have a great responsibility. I have entrusted you with one sword of love so that with it you may bend those who motivate fratricidal wars and bring them before my presence. 60. Your mission is one of peace, fraternity, and spirituality. I do not come to claim your heart, his present works, but to remind your spirit of his past and give him to understand the sublime mission that awaits you in eternity. My peace be with you.
Hey y'all, hold on, no. Wow. Hey y'all, Coach in the Fight here. We're trying to get Facebook with us. Trying to get on Facebook. I'm gonna try it again. Haven't done this. It says we're streaming, so I don't understand why. Or what's going on with it? I don't know. I've never done it before. No way to know if I'm actually there or not. We're going to be talking about Pentecost in this video. Like what we're supposed to do. Yeah. Looks like I may have a lot to do to go on Facebook Live. That would be a shame. Where else can you go on live at besides Facebook? Instagram, TikTok, Rumble.
What?
Rumble. There's one more. Got some stuff on. We got Redeem the Time says Shalom, Coach. Shalom, redeem the time. Warrior Princess of the Most High Yah says Shalom, Coach and family. Peace, love, and light. You know how to go live on your phone? It's always easier to do it on the phone. It's just I don't know that I'm set up with my Facebook account on the phone. Oh, I do have on this one. The old broken phone. Y'all bear with me. We're supposed to be going to pick up fish today. Y'all. Pond fish. I spent all of yesterday, some of yesterday doing bees. And then yesterday afternoon, building a string through the pond. Today, we're supposed to put some fish in that pond, Father willing. But at the same time, we got Pentecost coming up. Some people are celebrating Pentecost this evening or tomorrow evening. Some people already celebrated Pentecost, but don't worry about it. You haven't missed anything. The real Pentecost is a little ways away. There's only really one biblical Pentecost. However, there are a few, what do you call them? Few holidays that act like Pentecost. You have anyway, what it boils down to is a barbecue. And I'm still trying to pull up Facebook here, so y'all bear with me a little bit. This was really supposed to be about Facebook. It's just that I went live on YouTube as a second thought. Still don't see nothing to say? They ain't subscribed to my Facebook account. All right, we're gonna have to work on that separately. All right, so hey y'all, Coach in the Fight Game. Fight here, got Stacy with me.
Hello.
And I have the phone because in today's video, we're just gonna talk a little bit about Pentecost. For you guys that's preparing to do it, the Feast of Weeks, because there is a little bit of preparation that needs to be done ahead of time. Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks, is a certain day. It's about the 13th day of the month, but on that day, we're expected to bring all of our offerings in. Let me say that again. On that day, we're expected to bring all of our offerings in. So you can imagine how much work that has already taken place. You got 2 loaves of bread that has to be baked. Well, for some of us, that involves grinding. Hopefully this year it will involve yeast, where we started overnight. You remember that state? And so that involves time. So that starts even earlier than that. So some of you are going to need some preparation time. Hopefully you're going to need some preparation time, because this is the feast day that we really want to not show off, but we really want to do a good job on this particular one, because this one is more so about other people than just our family here. Remember that book of Tobit, they had to go out and find other people to come and share the meal with. Well, we're not really told to do that in any other feast besides Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks. So to me, what that comes across as is our Father's way to reach out to other people who may not otherwise keep the feast. And so, it could be a very big deal, especially in these end times, when we're expecting marriage suppers, when we're expecting the Feast of the Prodigal Son, when we're expecting the Feast of Divine Love, when we're, all of these feasts that's been prophesied about. A lot of people are expecting a lot of things to happen on a Pentecost. Now, is it going to be Pentecost 2025? Nobody, we're down to the day and the hour now, so nobody knows. But it's spiritually, it happens every year. Spiritually, we go through a Pentecost every year. For those of us who get in it last year, it takes a year to go through the whole process, keeping the feast days. The Messiah called it the acceptable year of the Lord. And then once you go through that process, you come back. So many, once you've prepared, then there's a feast day when the Holy Spirit will come and indwell in you. For many of us, this is something we're used to. And so we'll experience no change whatsoever. For some of you new guys, especially who are just now into the fold, the first Passover or your second Passover, you should be very well looking for something to change. Spiritually, not necessarily physically. You will be disappointed if you always look physically, because, there's only one storm that's supposed to come. It's supposed to involve a global earthquake and all kinds of stuff like that. But that's on one day in the future, obviously. But what we're talking about is the transition we make every year during the Feast of Weeks. Right, Stay? What do you know about that? Just helping you get in the conversation a little bit. Let's go to the comments. Ain't no more comments, Royal Prince of the Most High Yahweh. That's coming. All right, so the Feast of Weeks is a barbecue. It is a barbecue because it's really about smelling the essence of the wood and the meat. In the Old Testament, you can check with the epistle of Barnabas. Barnabas says that Moses misunderstood some stuff. And I agree with Barnabas because in my studies, praise our Father in heaven, for leading me in that direction, I studied the Hebrew for the word olah, which has been translated into a burnt offering, as if somebody's going to go to the market, buy an animal, bring him home, and just burn him up into ashes. But it's not burnt. It's more like smoked. So no, they're not going to come and burn the animal. That's not what olah is. They're going to come and smoke the animal, as in cooking it, preparing to eat. And that's what these feast days are really all about. That's why they call them festival days. Feast days. And what are we feasting on? The Passover teaches us how to prepare meat properly, and then from then on, we use that technique for new moon days, days of remembrance, I should say, feast days, except maybe Atonement Day, and maybe even Atonement Day. You have to read the script, really carefully, because that's what it's all about. And by doing so, partaking in these feast days, we get blessings. Each one gives us a blessing. This one is the blessing we expect to receive is the covenant being placed on our heart. This is the covenant on your heart feast day. When the law is placed on your heart feast day, this is a covenant feast day. When you look back at the interactions with the patriarchs and this feast day, you see that it always or almost always involved some type of visitation. Whether it's angelic visitation back there with Abraham, or whether it was Holy Spirit visitation back there with the apostles, or was it our Father in himself back there like it was with Jacob? Was it, like Moses on the mount? Those days that he spent up there, 40 days, it kind of, involve the Feast of Weeks, which is 50 days. These involves visitations, and it's about star alignments, not really anything spooky. It's so much as it is scientific. Our planet aligns with the stars in a way that our Father can communicate with us. Talking about our Father who is way out there in the middle of everything, way, way far away. We'll one day be with him, but that is in eternity. That's an eternity away. We'll be rejoined with him. Between now and then, we'll experience a lot of stuff, growing so that we too can be a God like him, and we'll be reunited with him. So you can imagine how distant he is from us, especially when you contemplate the idea that we live in a multi-universe, multiple universes. We need to grasp that. That's new to me. I went through engineering school, I went through Master of Science school, and I ain't never heard of a multi-universe. It turns out they're real. We live in a multi-universe. And so you have our Father who is at the center of these multi-universes. And you say, well, how does all of this work? Well, he uses things like quantum physics, magnetic tunneling, also star alignments to communicate with us and help program us using things like Hebrew letters, the alphabet, the fire letters, programs our conscience and our spirit and such. So that's why it's important to get these days right if we want to receive these emanations or these blessings. But it's important to be obedient too. For those who participated in Pentecost already, don't worry. You were obedient. You will get credit for obedience. You just may not catch certain emanations. You can do 2 Pentecosts. You can do 2. I would advise you to do 2, even if you have to be at work or some working environment, because this one falls on a weekday. Stacey, you got your glasses on. You can tell us what day that is. You can. A truck driver friend of mine is he thinks he's going to be out there on the road on this day, and we were talking about this as he was sitting in the restaurant like truck drivers do in the evening, before they go to the cab. Well, on that particular day, he might buy somebody else a steak dinner. He might buy somebody else a steak dinner on that day, that particular day. He's away from his family. He really can't grill. He said he could grill. I don't know. Well, he could grill right there in the parking lot of the rest stop like they do. But the important thing is to share it with somebody else. So what they say, the little lizards that come, well, they can share a steak meal with her. Somebody who he think is less fortunate. She may be more fortunate than him, but somebody who is less fortunate is important. And he should be able to find somebody to sit there at barbecue and then share his meal with there, wherever he's at. Being a truck driver. Because he too participated in the Christian Pentecost. And there is a difference, guys. You say, what's the difference between Christian? I thought this was a Christian channel. It is. I grew up in Baptist. I grew up Baptist. But the Christians follow Easter. They do Easter. That's what it means when you say, I am a Christian. You're saying that you are a messenger sent to bring the word, the good news to humanity, or saying you like Christmas and Easter and all them other pagan holidays, either or. The Muslims got a problem with the latter. They don't have a problem so much with the ones before that. The ones that's just reading the Bible and doing what it says. But all of this idolatry is getting on a lot of people's nerves, not just the Muslims. A lot of people's nerves is all of this paganism. And so the world is going to war against this paganism because the governments are using it to control us. And a lot of people don't want to be controlled anymore. We don't find it necessary to be controlled anymore. So Pentecost is a way for us to share with our Father. That's why it's leavened bread that's brought out at Pentecost. The scripture explicitly says that we're not supposed to have any feast day with leavened bread except Pentecost. And why is that? It's primarily because new people aren't used to unleavened bread. This feast is about reaching out to others. And so, yeah, you have a little leavening in your bread to make it more palatable for them. You reach out to them. Remember, there with the apostles, there was thousands of people that showed up on that day. Thousands. You imagine trying to feed them some bread that they ain't used to? No, you want Wonder Bread that day. Everybody eating. Everybody participated, whatever, You want the light bread, light bright. All the enriched bleached flour stuff you can get in there. Except you got to bake it yourself, If you take the script literally, you have to kind of bake it yourself. Stacey, we're getting a lot of comments. You want to read them? Come on, plug. Sorry about last time, y'all. The battery went dead in the middle of Stacey's conversation. I'm on the battery this time. It could again. I don't know how much charge. We are getting some power here at the Hillbilly Homestead because of the book printing. We are printing the books for you guys who know about the books. It should be on the list already. Some of you should be receiving them already. If you're like me and don't go to the post office often, and you ordered a book, you better go to the post office. It's a little bit upsetting when this stuff comes back in the mail. I know the situations because I don't go to the post office that often either. But, there's a lot involved for a package to come back in the mail. And the person, never see it, and you call them up and they say, oh, I didn't know that it was at the post office. So, if you've ordered a book, if you order from the channel, though, from the store, you should have a shipping thing, I believe. We'll check on that. It's really one person that I'm talking to that the first book was sent out. They know who they are. What are the comments you guys think?
Who wants to know
What day is Pentecost on the Gregorian calendar?
Okay, we're looking at it here. Now you can see a copy. Let me see glasses. We can see you can see a copy over at coachinthefight.shop. You can calculate it yourself with books like Jubilees. The book of Jubilees tells you that it's on the 13th, 14th, and 15th day of the month. You can calculate it. I'm looking here at the calendar. The Feast of Weeks is June 10th. June 10th. The Feast of Weeks is June 10th. That is a Tuesday. But that is the day, like you said, you bring out the loaves of bread. That is the day, if you were living in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago, not Jerusalem, nobody lived in Jerusalem except the city people. We lived in the country, the wilderness, which is more like a Bethlehem. So I looked it up one day. Bethlehem is an all-day walk. It's an all-day hike. And so you got to bring your bread, your sheep. If you grow vegetables, 10% of your vegetables, all of your harvest, whatever. If you make clothes, you pretty much bringing in 10% of the garments, the silk or whatever, down to Jerusalem on the 10th. So this is an all-day trek, bringing your stuff in. This is the offering day. It's when many of you guys who you will be supporting your ministers on this day. This is offering day. This is why it's a big deal down at the church, because they know this is the day that everybody's supposed to pay their tithes day. And so that's why they bring it in the church. Everybody come to church, come to church, come to church, because that's the day we're supposed to bring our tithes. And so, and for the people who pay tithes once a year, that'd be a lot. That'd be a big deal day. So you could imagine what it was like there in Jerusalem with all these convoys of people bringing all of this stuff into Jerusalem. That's the 10th. Everybody bringing it in on the 10th. That's Pentecost, though. If you go to Leviticus 23, that's Pentecost. To some, that's it. To some, especially the ones who's just starting out, they're like, I ain't growing no bread, I ain't going to look. It's really about the offering and the covenant. And so for some on the 10th, that's it. They're going to pay their tithes, say some prayers, and that's going to be pretty much it. Some of us who have been doing this for a long time, praise our Father in heaven, I've been doing it for almost 30 years. It involves some other stuff you can imagine, actually baking bread, grinding flour, making wine, and we kind of shabby on the wine this year, but many times we make our own wine for this day. We slaughter lambs, all kinds of stuff goes on. So it's a process and that's important to understand. Don't be expected when you first come into this walk to know everything and to be doing everything. You have to grow to this and learn. So don't be thinking, because you ain't making your own wine this time that you somehow behind the curve. You're not. It's just that we couldn't afford wine and we had to learn, right, Stacey? We try to learn how to make cheese too. Anyway, let's go. Let's see what you got. Glasses back. So June the 10th, Pentecost, Feast of Weeks, June the 10th.
Okay. Here it says, so Pentecost is on June 10th, but then he clarified where he said June 10th equals offering day. Shakar says, we've been paying attention to the mail. Oh, he says, we'll let you know when they get, I guess, their book.
Yeah. So going back to the other comment. Yeah, June the 10th is offering day. June the 13th. Yeah, I'll look at that closely on here. June the 13th is the celebration day. You done brought it in on the 10th. You done cooked it up on, wait a minute. It's at 13th. I think we and Stacy got some glasses coming in the mail. We have to thank the champ for that. We have to thank you guys for helping us with that. All right, but I got my broken pair on. I can almost see this. June the 10th is the Feast of Weeks. June the 11th is the preparation day. That's prep day. A lot of people be cooking all day that day. Because June the 12th is the celebration day. We'll start eating on the evening of June the 11th, but then we will wake up also taking in, the efforts that we've done on June the 12th. All day long on June the 12th, we'll be eating. It'll be like a Sabbath day. For those who are kind of new to the walk, and on a monthly calendar, it is a Sabbath day. For those on a monthly calendar, it is a Sabbath day. And so it will be treated like that, but it's not really a Sabbath day. So we get to cook. We get to, actually have a festival there, a celebration there on June the 12th. Then, after that day ends, and we've celebrated out and we're tired, we're tuckered out, about half drunk or whatever, get ready to go to sleep, then we can expect this so-called visitation that our forefathers and elders received starting on the evening of June the 11th, probably because he says he comes while we're asleep, but we could also, be expecting things, looking around with our spiritual eyes open there on June the 13th when it's all wrapped up. So it's a big deal, but this video is really about June the 10th. June the 10th is Pentecost. That's the offering day. When it said bring your bread out, bring your lambs out, all that stuff that it talks about in Leviticus 23, the 10th. Stacy just dropped y'all.
Royal Princess.
Dropped y'all on the floor.
Warrior Princess says there is a star alignment on the 16th, 13th of June.
Ooh, that's deep. For it to be a star alignment on, always huge, but to be Pentecost 2025, yeah, that's a really big deal. Again, that's what it is, these star alignments. Think of it like lights, and the stars are like mirrors. So you have our Father out there who's trying to communicate with us, but, we otherwise thick-headed and stiff-necked and all of that. And so, but he's still trying to send various ways of communication. One way is through fire letters on our conscience. Fire letters on our conscience. And so you can imagine the Father having this fire letter flashlight back where he's at, trying to get it to us, but this earth is spinning. So there's only certain times of the day that we can receive these emanations because the earth is spinning, whether you believe it or not. And we're rotating. And so what ends up happening with all of this going on, you have the rays of these emanations bouncing off of the stars and the moons just like mirrors. And that's what star alignments are. Days when these particular emanations will be more intense than others. That's why everybody around the world feels it at the same time. It's just when everything is just more intense, like a light, like a flashlight is shining on us. And so for that to occur on the feast days, that's what the feast days are about, to make us do certain things in certain times of the year. Well, for it to line up on the day perfectly would be significant, very significant.
So y'all increase says, do we celebrate on the 12th?
That's the day. That's like I said, that's like a Passover. Think of I'm sorry. It's like Sabbath day. Let me start slowly. This part is a little bit confusing, but if you get it, it'll make sense. Think of the feast days as all the same. Like it's the same celebration, just at different parts of the year. But we weren't told all of the elements of this celebration in one feast day. So if you overlap all of the feast days on top of each other, what you have is the 13th day of the month is the day of the offering. The 14th day of the month is the day of the preparation. And the 15th day of the month is the day of the Sabbath celebration. Celebration. And I have to say it that way because in the first month, the first day of unleavened bread is a Sabbath. In the fall, it's also a Sabbath. First is a Sabbath. But this day that we're talking about, celebrating with our family, everybody coming around and eating, they could have been celebrating the day before with the cooking and all of that. especially that evening. But that day, June the 12th, that's the day, and back in Jerusalem, that's the day when we all would have had on our clean clothes, new clothes, especially clean clothes. But we'd had everybody would have been looking good, smelling good, walking around, you know, together. You know, you understand? It'd have been the party day. That would have been the party day. Nobody would have been working. Nobody would have been really cooking. All the cooking's been done. Nobody really got anywhere to go. We are where it is. This is the party spot. So it's kind of like a Sabbath day, but it's not. And so, yeah, that's the 12th, celebration day. That's when you got your music going. You done did all your work. Because on that day, that's 12th, when you go to sleep that night, you can have some really good dreams. You can have some really, really significant dreams that night. And your life could change the next day, if depending on your position and your personal position. And like I said, you could just be starting, and you could receive the covenant on your heart this year. Stacy and I, we've been working with this covenant on our heart for several years. And the body's got to catch up. Spirit is willing, but the body's got to catch up. So it's a period of preparation. Repentance is involved, and all of that as we get better at it. But you will and could experience a jolt this year during Pentecost. But anyway, what else you got to say?
Robert says June 10th equals offering day. June 11th through 12th, the celebration day. June 11th, evening visitation. June 13th, star alignment.
Yeah. I don't sound too far off. That's what we're talking about. And the thing about it, you notice that the Bible doesn't give us all of this level of detail that we're talking about. Right? And it's because all we have to do is do what it says. Make this offering, bring this bread out, do what it says there in Leviticus 23, and then all of this other stuff, we don't have to worry about the stars aligning. They're going to do it. We don't have to worry about the visitations. He's going to do it. We don't have to worry about, all we got to do is do what it says, and we'll be all right. And that goes for all the feast days.
Ramael, Coach, I have a question. Sorry if you have already addressed this. The Omar count should have concluded on the 6th of Sivan, right? And that would make it the Feast of Weeks, Pentecost.
Yeah, no. You missed the class. We addressed it in a previous class that we did on the Feast of Weeks coming out of the Book of Jubilees. In that Book of Jubilees, what I discovered, I ain't never seen that before. I said I was going to get a copy off the shelf, and I may do that now. It actually says in the book, in the footnotes, that the Feast of Weeks is supposed to be on the 15th day of the month. But the Pharisees do it on the 6th day of the month. Now, I know that down right here is people unsubscribing because they're like, wait, we Jewish, we do. This video is really about what you're supposed to be doing. We can talk about dates for those who want to get it right and catch these emanations, because that's important. We don't want to overlook them. But what we're talking about is a barbecue. So whether you start this barbecue tonight or barbecue for the whole week, that's, But it says in this book, I'm going to go get it off the shelf in a minute, or Stacey, I'll babysit y'all for a second. It may take me a minute to look and trying to find the translation. But I'm going to look and see if it says that the Pharisees do it on the 6th. All right, go. Read another comment. I'm going to look for this book.
It says, are you referring to Jubilee 6, 17 through 22?
Referring to Jubilee 6, Jubilee 34, Jubilee chapter 44.
So
I'm going to take the pseudepigrapha first. I don't think it's in the pseudepigrapha. We gonna see. What's another comment?
Shakar says, yeah, I heard what was said about those in the sixth. I think he's referring to the Pharisees celebrated on the sixth. And I think
We have to give our Father in heaven credit for these words. This ain't, you know, intelligence on our part. This ain't even memory on our part. One of the things that we learned early when reading the Bible, it says that after you read the scripture, whenever you need that particular scripture, it will be brought back to your heart. So it ain't a matter of being smart, you know, or definitely not a matter of being intelligent. It's just our Father bringing the information when we need it. Now here, I'm looking at this book of Jubilees here in the pseudepigrapha. It does have footnotes. And I'm going back and see what the translation is before I find that particular footnote. Because if it's the Charles translation, I expect it to be the same as what we did that class on. Something else. You know what we're going to get. I'm not going to waste nobody's time. Nope. This is O.S. Wintermute. Okay, so this is not going to have the same footnote. But check that video. And so it's a shabby video. Kind of in the trenches. You got to understand. Sometimes, you know, when we're in wartime, you get different kinds of videos, and that's, you know, kind of a rough one. But when you reference what's in there, it's telling us specifically that there was a misunderstanding in the dates. Now, this book was written in early 1900s, like 1917, if I remember correctly, was the Charles translation. It's important to understand it was the Charles translation. It was written in 1917. And in that book, it said that Pentecost is supposed to be the 15th day of the month. Not the 6th, the 15th. And it is the Pharisees who were doing it when the book was written, or when the book was translated. It was, or whatever. It was the Pharisees who were doing it on a different day, on the 6th, which would make the modern day Jewish community the modern day Pharisees. They're doing it on the wrong day. And I believe it's somehow referenced in...
oh, them sheep. I didn't know.
What?
Oh.
Okay, go get Chris. They you got to go. She gonna stand there and yell, and he all the way up there. Hold on. Let me send. I can go out there. We can take y'all. I think we can take y'all. Find that in. All right. Yep. So the deal with the sheep. Stacy's family has some land next door to mine, and it's overgrown, and so we decided to go up different vegetation. Way out. They didn't got out of the gate and decided to walk back down the road to my gate. Stacy just let him in my gate. They literally walked from up there down the street. Good thing we don't have a lot of traffic here. One day, y'all gonna come and help me. It says it in the script. It say y'all gonna come to help. Some of y'all gonna come because you're hungry. And yep, we We got food growing, and we hunting all kinds of stuff. We got livestock. Supposed to be going to get some fish today. We got honeybees yesterday. So some of you gonna come for food. Some of you gonna come for curiosity. It says you're gonna come because you want to see what this place is like, where all this went down at. I hope y'all get here soon. I need some help. Yeah, that'd be a shame. And Chris up there, he would have noticed them, right? He had to would have noticed them. Where is he at? I believe I could go. Let's go. If they didn't hit up the trees. Let's see. Message with Tractor Warrior Princess of Most High, yeah. She says B.H. Charles, Jubilee 6. And then Robert thinks I should turn on the camera. Robert, you think I should break the second commandment? You know turning on the camera will break the second commandment. Now, Robert, I'm going to assume that you're ignorant of that, right? And that you don't really know that. You're not really trying to hurt me, you know? Because that's exactly what you do. If you want to tear down a minister, a person in a position like me, that is to the point where they will actually let you take a picture of them. Uh-oh. They fussing up here. Oh, Lord. I'm not going up there. So, yeah, yo. And the thing about the second commandment, it says in the second commandment that he is a jealous God. After he says you won't make an image of anything, any likeness, meaning, you know, if I were to turn this camera button on, it's right here, it's right there. If I were to turn it on and let you see my ugly face, my tooth then finally fell out. That tooth that I've been talking to y'all about for years, it fell out the other day, about a week ago. So if y'all want to see that, you know, and I would violate the second commandment. That would be a violation of the second commandment. And he says he's a jealous God, which he's already telling us the way the punishment will come about. He's already telling us in the Old Testament how we will be punished for such a violation. He says he is a jealous God. Now, you jump to the Testament of Solomon, and he starts to explain the spirit of jealousy and how it works. The spirit of jealousy and how it works. You go to you go to the shepherd of Hermas, and it tells us that to make an image is equivalent to committing adultery. So for your benefit, if I were to turn this camera on, it would be equivalent to running down to, Walmart and finding me, one of the more widow women down there and just getting my smooch on. Committing adultery. Same effect. Me and my wife about to have a falling out. We about to argue and all of this. We about to go through it. I'm gonna be sitting up there saying, "No, I didn't do nothing. I didn't cheat. I didn't do anything," because I didn't. Not in the three-dimensional. Not in three-dimensional. This error will cost you in the fifth dimensional. And so I actually did violate it. I broke the commandment. And does he come down and hit me with lightning when I break the commandment? No. Just tears your whole family up. Now you and your wife about to fall out. Y'all about to break up. The family about to break up over an image, over a picture. All right? Did they get it? Did they bad? Did they get something? Did they eat his trees up?
I don't know what they're doing. I am not going around this man's house looking for him to show up, and I'm behind his house.
Your brother? Anyway. All right, we're still live. They all right. And so this spirit, this jealousy, let's talk about that for a second. First of all, it's heresy to think that I can simply turn this camera on is a level of heresy. I don't have that heresy in my life. I learned that real quick reading the Bible. That's one thing we ain't supposed to be doing is taking pictures, selfies, or nobody else sees. But I have, you know, mistakenly have, forgettingly have, you know. And the thing about it, it's always bad. So what happens then? Okay, so you have this heresy according to the Testament of Solomon. You have this heresy where you think in your heart that you can turn on a camera. Okay. Now, just like now, when this heresy presents itself, notice the conversation changed. That's because a bit of strife came into the conversation. Argument came in. That it always goes together. There's heresy, then there's strife. The strife is to thwart the heresy. In this case, it will, because he can't say nothing back. And, you know, even if he tried to argue too much, somebody would start reading his comments and putting him in, you know, comment jail and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to win. The strife, the argument that you hear in my voice will do its job this time, and it will squash the heresy, at least for the most part. But in most cases, especially in a home environment or a neighborhood environment, it won't be the case. The argument will continue. They'll go back and forth, back and forth. Nobody will win the argument. So now you'll go on to the third stage, which is battle. Battle is when you actually see the bump, bump, bump and the bang, bang, bang. It could involve slamming doors, but it could involve, you know, people getting hurt. You know, this is a boom, boom, boom. That too is to thwart the heresy. Okay, just like back in the day, if we couldn't, you know, talk you out of doing something, talk you out of doing that bad thing, well, we just beat you up. You know, that's how we handle it in school, at least back in West Virginia. You know, we'll talk for a little while and then we're gonna start throwing these beans. One way or another, it's gonna stop. Well, that's battle. That's the way it works when it comes to heresy. You got the argument, and if the argument don't happen, well, you know, in the past, they actually started hitting people with rocks and stuff. But what if that don't happen? What if the people aren't fighters? What if they ain't don't nobody want to fight? You know, as soon as somebody slammed one door, boom, if somebody else and took off the fight, the battle is over. Battle is sitting there by itself looking goofy. Hey, where everybody go? Nobody wants to fight today? Nope. Well, now you got to go to the next stage. Jealousy. Spirit of jealousy comes in. Spirit of jealousy comes in and starts attacking other members of the family, not just the one who's on the heresy. You know, they ain't just, you know, getting a bunch of strife and a bunch of arguing, a bunch of battle and all of this. Now, once you get the jealousy, it starts affecting the husband, the other spouse, the one that's not heretical, and it starts affecting the children too. The children start leaving the house, start, you know, wanting them, you know, be isolated from their other siblings. It starts breaking up the home, and so does the wife. And that reference the shepherd of Hermas, which says that you can't live together. When one spouse takes an image, makes an image, is equivalent to committing adultery, and yeah, they're not gonna live together. It's just like if your spouse now was to start committing adultery, you know, how long is y'all's marriage gonna last? Well, that's the spirit of jealousy. That's the spirit of jealousy. So nope, I shouldn't turn my camera on. In fact, you should turn yours off. Nobody need to see you. You know, just like you don't need to see me. We're supposed to be a voice in the wilderness. A voice. That's all you get. A voice in the wilderness. There's nothing to see. You don't want to look at me. I'm probably not pretty. You know, I'm probably not interesting. You know, but what it will do is stereotype you to it. Now, how many of your children are looking here, put my face with a voice, and then when they go to Walmart, they're gonna be looking for that dude down there that look like me to talk like me. He look like Coach in the fight. No, Yeah. But that's what images do. And it conditions you. Okay, what if the other guy come and he ain't look like me? What if they the opposite? Or she the opposite? Now you stereotyped. Now you're stereotyped. That's why they put all your little fake gods like that. That little god you call Jesus, the one with the long hair, that's not him at all. I can't call the real name of it. That's a particular god. And how do you know it? You know it by the long hair. Every time you see this god with the long hair, it is that particular god. I don't care if they come Jesus or not. That could be your local, that could be your favorite artist, your favorite music artist. When you look at that album, Kenny, I ain't gonna call his name, but you look at the album cover, and there you got the dude there looking in the camera with the long hair. He is trying to be your savior dude. Yeah, he's coming up as the image of your savior dude. That's what idolatry does for you. That's what idolatry does for you. That's the purpose of it. So no, I won't be turning on my camera. Robert like, okay, got it. Sorry. I didn't look at the comments. Royal Prince of the Most High Yah says the 7 weeks from Nisan 22. Thus the I'm gonna go get glasses back on. I can't put them on, they don't go on. Let's look through them. Where'd they go? Oh, there they go. The 7 weeks from Nisan 22. Thus the Paschal lamb was offered on Nisan 14. The unleavened bread began on the 15th and ended on the 21st. On the 22nd, the wave sheaf was offered. No. Go look at Leviticus 23. It says the day after the Sabbath. The 15th day is a Sabbath day. The 15th day of the first month is a Sabbath day. The 15th day of the first month is always a Sabbath day. 7 days later takes you to the 22nd. That is a Sabbath day too. That is a rest day. That is not the day you make a wave offering. Nope, that's the day you stay home and rest. Wave offerings involve another treks to Jerusalem. You know, you ain't finna go down there. Nope. It says in Leviticus 23, the day after the Sabbath day. So now you're talking about the 23rd, not the 22nd. 23rd is the day of the wave offering. That's the day of first fruits. Yeah, holy days don't stamp on top of each other. The 22nd is a Sabbath day. The 23rd is and the 22nd is also the 7th day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's the 7th day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It is the day after the Sabbath day. The day after that is the Feast of First Fruits, and the day of Omar. Not the Omar count. It's not an Omar count. We should try to stop calling it an Omar count. It's not an Omar count. It's a week count. We're counting weeks. We're not counting Omar. Omar, the reason why the Pharisees who do it on the 6th, also are the ones who call it the Omar count. They call it the Omar count. And the reason why they call it the Omar count is because they're backwards. There's a lot of Kabbalistic stuff mixed in with that religion. If I got to be the one to tell you, I'm sorry, but it's true. There's a lot of Kabbalistic stuff mixed in with that religion, which means they do stuff backwards. They do stuff typically backwards. That's what Kabbalistic stuff means, is they a little bit backwards. You know, standing up when we're supposed to be sitting down when we're supposed to be standing up. And so that's a lot of what's going on there. On the 6th, you have, you know, anyway. Nope, the 23rd is the day of the sheaf offering. Quiet Miel says, thank you for pointing me in the right direction and where to confirm a truth. I have learned to go back and read from myself, and Yahweh uses others to help point me in the right direction. Yeah, guys. Yeah, me too. When you go back and read it for yourself, you are completely surprised by what we find. I mean, yeah. It's yeah. You don't want to think that people are trying to harm us intentionally. Kind of makes us look, a little bit or suspicious or paranoid or whatever. But some of this stuff is straight up opposite. Some of this stuff is opposite. And it's so important that we're going to do it opposite. Like I said, Kabbalistic. But praise our Father for pointing this out. Don't thank me. Don't thank me. Thank me for misinformation and delayed information and all of that. Bad attitudes and all of that. But whatever you getting out of it, that's good. Even if the bad example does you some good, you praise our Father for it, because it is Him that's doing it all, especially the information. It's all scriptural information. We can get it right out of the book. And then the motivation is Him too. The motivation is Him too. I really can't stop doing this. I don't want to, and it's a good thing. But you know how it go when you wake up. Some days you need a little push. Well, He pushes. So I think you gotta thank Him for that, because I'm learning from these videos too. You learning, I'm learning. Sometimes I hear myself and I have to catch me and say, yeah, that is me. Yeah. Or that's my voice. It ain't me. It's only my voice. Sometimes in those periods when the emanations start coming through and our Father starts using my tongue to speak through me, I'd be fascinated, just like you, be listening to it, going, wow. So we learning. And so we have to thank Him for the information. We have to thank Him. Don't forget that. If you don't, you be start thinking there's something going on with me. And then when you find out that I'm a jerk, then you have a problem. Like, dang, really, am I going to turn out to be a jerk? No, I've always been a jerk. I've always been like that. I've always been like this. I'm thinking about when before I read the Bible, I was way worse. Fight mean fight then. Kwame says the 15th day also seems to align more consistently with the other feast days that are clearly marked with Yahuwah's unmistakable sign of either the new moon or the full moon. Absolutely. The new moon or the full moon. The Day of Atonement is the only oddball feast day out of the way. Feast day is the Day of Atonement. It's the 10th day of the month. But you also reference the 10th day of the first month when we choose the lamb. It's not really a holy day, a day that we recognize so much. But like I said, these feast days are to be overlapped. And so if we overlap the first month and the second month, we see that the choosing of the lamb and atonement day are related somehow. I'll be trying to put them two together because it is like a puzzle. I have to wait on Him to give me the answer to it. But I know that there's something, they know that there's already something there. So the thing about the 15th day of the month, it is the day appointed, the time appointed. And so when we look in like Psalms 81:3, when it tells us to blow the trumpet during a time appointed, it's talking about this feast day. We have to blow the trumpet during the feast days. Over all of our sacrifices and during the feast days, we blow the trumpets. It's important. We don't understand what's all going on there, and we don't want to, I promise you. I have to read books like the Zohar and all of that to find out what's going on. We don't need to know everything. And so we blow the trumpets on the day appointed. The thing about it, the 6th day of the month is not the day appointed. The 15th day of the month is always the day appointed. The 5th of every month. I don't care what month it is. The 15th day of the month. If I go away and my name is Tobit and I say I'm coming back on the day appointed, yeah, that's code word for the new moon day. On the new moon day, I'm not for new moon. I'm sorry. Full moon. Full moon. The day appointed is the full moon. The day appointed is the full moon. And that's the significance of these blowing the trumpets. And this is tabernacles, unleavened bread, and Pentecost all occur on the full moon. There are 7 feasts total, but those 3 are the only ones listed in the Book of the Covenant. Those are the only 3 that your life depends on it. Yeah, maybe if you work on Atonement Day, but the other ones, but Atonement Day, we're not under contract. We're not under contract for Atonement Day. I'm not going to dare say we ain't got to do it, but a contract is a contract. We are under contract for Pentecost, the day appointed. We're not under contract for Passover. I love Passover. I ain't going to tell you not to do Passover, but we're not under contract. We are under contract for the week-long Feast of Unleavened Bread, and it starts on the day appointed. Passover is not the day appointed. Unleavened bread is. The memorial blowing of trumpets. I like blowing my trumpet. I'm trying to, get that thing. I can't wait till that day. Blow all day. But it's not the day appointed. And it's not required. Now, I ain't gonna say it ain't required. Leviticus 23 says it's required, but it's not a part of our contract. It's not a part of the covenant. That's one thing we have to understand. The whole Old Testament is not the law. The law is only 4 chapters. You need to write that down. You need to write that down so you can remember it. Make yourself believe it if you don't. Make yourself believe it. The covenant is only 4 chapters. Exodus chapter 20, 21, 22, and 23. Only 4 chapters. There's a lot of other chapters, a lot of other good information, a good idea, and I suggest we follow every bit of it to the extent that we understand. But a contract is a contract. Not everything's going to get me killed. Not everything going to get me killed. Not everything going to get me kicked out of the covenant. Not everything is going to give me a reprobate mind. Not everything is going to tear my whole house up. Not everything is going to destroy me. Not everything is going to cause me to have to, come back down here to earth again, and be reborn again as a child to redo it. That's the covenant. Way more serious. There's only 3 feast days in the covenant. And all 3 of them happen on full moon days, the day appointed. Warrior Prince of the Most High Yah is now, if we count 7 weeks onward from the day wave offering, the Feast of Weeks falls on the 15th of the 3rd month. Yeah. Well, yeah, so technical. Yeah, I'm technical. Mathematical down to the minute. But yeah, I ain't disagree. I mean, it's just pretty much on point. Like I said, as long as we do what we're supposed to be doing, we'll be all right. All right, Robert's retracted messages. Okay, thanks for the clarification. Quadmiel says the word Omar means sheaf, right? So essentially, we grain count. Yeah, but we're not grains. We're not counting the sheaves. We're counting weeks. And so when you look in the scriptures, nothing or nowhere where it tells you to count Omars, or the Omar is not even related. He's not even in the text. The word Omar is not there. In other words, we should have never called it an Omar count at all. We made that. If we wanted to, we could have. We have free will. We could have called it whatever we wanted. But it is the Feast of Weeks. It's supposed to be counting weeks. So it's supposed to be a week count. The problem that I have with the Omar count is another biblical reference talks about how we put the Omar above the ephod. The ephod is supposed to represent the priest's ability to communicate with our Father and share, vital information. The Omar was just bread and food. There's a biblical reference that talks about how on a new moon day, we want to plant corn, and on the Sabbath, right after the Sabbath day ends, we can't wait to go buy wheat. Put in the Omar above the ephod. And so I think that's what they're doing. And that's why these Pharisees who do it on a different day and in a different way are calling it a Omar count, because they put in the Omar above the ephod intentionally. Like that's what it's going to be. We counting wheat. We counting berries. We count wheat berries. We ain't counting weeks, Sabbath days, which is 5th dimensional. No, we counting stuff. Our belly is our God. As long as we got something, they good. We're going to have to rise above eventually, by force or by free will. So I don't really like the word Omar count. I understand it, but it ain't an Omar count. We ain't counting Omars. We counting weeks. 7 weeks. 7 Sabbath days. If you think you count Omars, yeah, that's what you're doing. You got big barrels, big drums of food out there. How is that significantly, or how is that spiritually helping you? It's not. But if you're counting Sabbath days, yeah, hey, I don't know how that's helping, but I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's helping. I'm going on in there. Yahala Wala Wahaladan says, all praise and glory to the Father, our Shalom, coach and family. Yeah. All praises to him. No praises to me. No. Well, sorry about that. Y'all, power went dead. I just came back on to close out the video. I see two of you guys are still here. Probably coach. I mean, probably Arnold Faber and Warrior Princess. But anyway, we're going to close this video. If you got anything out of it, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. But leave us a comment either way. So.